In this review and installation, we're going to be taking a look at a AR15 KeyMod handguard. Some refer to it as a rail. I refer to it as a handguard. This is a product made by Trinity Force. Their website is trinityforce.com. This particular one is the Atlas. This is in 15-inch. And this carries a street price of around $99. That's from opticsplanet.com. That price may vary depending upon where you get it from. This is the standard brown shipping box that it comes in. And inside of the box is the rail in a plastic baggie, and a card that talks about return policy, no hassle warranty, in some really small writing. How do you make a return? And it looks like the return card has a stamped number on it to indicate reference to maybe the serial number of the particular product. Don't know, but that's all it ships in the box. So let me go ahead and take this apart, and let's take a look at this handguard. I'm excited to see this. Okay, it's very lightweight, and inside a couple of Allen keys, nice extra bolts. Extra bolts, I believe, are down here. Excuse me while I take this off camera. The couple more baggies stuck inside that I've got to try and get out. Like Christmas, what's inside? All right. Set that down for a moment. So we've got two different Allen wrenches, and it looks like a couple of extra bolts in case you lose one, and a couple of KeyMod rail sections. Now this particular Atlas has a integrated Picatinny rail on the top, and you've got laser etched T marks on the top, so that's nice. So if you need to add, say, a vertical grip, you can put one of these rail sections on the bottom, or you can put it on the side for flashlight or what have you. So a lot of rail options nowadays, when you buy them, they don't come with a lot of extra rails. You might get one if you're lucky. In this case, you actually get two. That's good. And of course, I always like to get extra bolts because sometimes, you know, things get lost. So it's always good to have some extra bolts. So let's talk a little bit about this rail. Trinity Force's website, they have several different rails. I can only talk about the one I have here, which is the Atlas. I like this one myself. I like the look of it. This KeyMod free float rail features a slim profile for improved ergonomics and weight savings. It has a static top rail optimized for mounting optics and multiple contact points for a hex key mounted modular rail system on the sides and bottom. The Atlas rail is the ideal solution for any AR15 owner looking for speed and mission flexibility. It uses a hex key secured barrel nut clamp and proprietary barrel nut for even more weight savings and easy installation. Now this free lock clamping system that they refer to has a patent number to it. The free lock, like mentioned, has a non-indexing barrel nut and clamping system that utilizes free-floating tabs to secure the rail to the receiver. Free lock provides both frictional and mechanical locking forces to create a rock-solid bond between the rail and barrel nut. Now, this is the 15-inch version. There are multiple lengths available, which is nice. You've got 7, 10, 12, 15, and 16.5-inch rails available, or handguards available. This particular one in 15 inches weighs 14.3 ounces. The width is 1.57 inches. The height is 2.36 inches. The inner diameter is 1.3 inches. Important if you plan on running a suppressor and tucking it underneath the handguard. The material this is made out of is aluminum 6061 T6. It has a hard coat anodized finish. The interface is a KeyMod mil standard 1913 Picatinny rail. All right, so what do we got? We've got our patent number etched here. We've got the Trinity Force logo, and we have the clamping system here. Inside is the barrel nut. Very nice finish. Very nice. Very lightweight. You can see the inside diameter. It's a very small diameter handguard. So for installation of this, you're going to need definitely a small, low-profile gas block, and you're also going to need the tools to disassemble your AR15. I'm going to show you the installation of this soon, but let's take a look at this clamping system right here, and the barrel nut. And we'll use the supplied keys, Allen keys, to take this apart. Not to lose our extra bolts. So this top bolt here secures the rail onto the barrel nut. So if we remove this, we can actually remove the barrel nut. When we remove that, we got to loosen this up. Let's loosen up the side clamping bolts. And now we can remove the barrel nut. The barrel nut just slides right out. So this top clamping, this top secure bolt right here actually drops right down into this recess, and that's going to prevent the handguard from pulling off the barrel nut. This clamping system clamps together and holds the handguard in place so it will not rotate. Pretty innovative design. I've seen similar type designs, and they are all very functional. These particular bolts have locking nuts on them as well. This does not include, make sure we don't lose any of the bolts. This does not include a barrel nut installation tool, and it does not include any Loctite. The instructions for this are actually not included with the handguard. The instructions for installing this are available from trinityforce.com. There's a section and you can download a PDF document with the installation instructions. They do recommend some non-permanent Loctite be used on these bolts. That would be blue Loctite, of course, which is what I'm going to use when we go to install this. And the barrel nut requires a 1 1/4 inch crow's foot. The crow's foot wrench, we'll take a look at that here shortly, but the crow's foot is going to attach to your torque wrench. So when you install this, you're going to torque this down to about 40 foot-pounds of torque. You're also going to need some Aeroshell 33 MS grease to apply to the threads of your upper receiver before you install this particular barrel nut. Innovative design, and like mentioned, it is a non-indexing bolt, which we'll talk about later. But standard barrel nuts, you have to get them indexed, so the gas tube will actually go over the top of the barrel nut and into your upper receiver. With this type of a low-profile non-indexing barrel nut, you don't have to worry about that. So really nice. Make sure I don't lose this bolt again. It keeps falling out. What I see so far is very nice. This is a very nicely machined 6000 series aluminum handguard. It's very lightweight. I like small diameter handguards. I have a small hand, so if you want to C-clamp something like this, especially something that has an integrated Picatinny rail. It needs to be rather small to get a good grip on it. At least for me, it does. The industry standard KeyMod allows you to use a lot of different KeyMod accessories on this handguard, which is really nice. So you can buy pretty much any type of grip, vertical grip, or any type of light mounts that are KeyMod compatible, and they'll work with this particular grip or this particular rail. Lots of extra machining on this to save weight and improve the look of this. These particular cutouts you can't put. These are not KeyMod cutouts. They're aesthetics and for cooling. But the finish on this, this is you've got nothing to complain about at this point. From what I can see, with my observations on my video table right here, very high quality handguard, and we're going to go ahead and install this on a 16-inch upper receiver, and we'll take a look at that process and what it looks like on a rifle. Okay, moving on to the installation of the Trinity Force Atlas KeyMod handguard. We're going to talk about some of the items you need to do this installation. What you're going to need to do is, starting off, is go to Trinity Force's website and download the installation instructions right here, so you have a guide to follow. You're also going to need a half-inch drive torque wrench. Now, you can get torque wrenches for in the $20 to $30 range that'll do the job just fine, but you really need to have one of these because we're going to be torquing down a barrel nut, and that needs to be torqued down to a specific setting, which is 40 foot-pounds. So you're going to need one of these. You can buy these at Harbor Freight. You don't need to spend $200-300 on one. You can if you want. That's great. I have a relatively inexpensive one, but it is calibrated correctly. You're also going to need, most likely you're going to need a standard half-inch socket wrench. This would be used most likely to remove your existing barrel nut on your upper receiver. A lot of it depends upon what handguard you already have on your upper receiver and what type of barrel nut. You may or may not need this. And on that same note, you're going to probably need a tool, like I have the Magpul right here. You're going to need something like this for removing your existing barrel nut. You're going to need, of course, the handguard. You're going to need some blue Loctite. That is for the hex nuts on the handguard. We definitely don't want to use anything heavier than blue Loctite. Do not use red Loctite. We're going to need some Aeroshell 33 MS grease. Aeroshell 33 MS is the military spec grease used for AR assembly. You can find little containers like this off of eBay and Amazon for a few dollars. I highly suggest you invest in some of this. Keep it on hand whenever you're working on any type of firearm. This is the preferred grease to use. You're also going to need a crow's foot, in a half-inch drive crow's foot in 1 1/4 inch size. These are not easy items to find either. If you don't have one already, eBay or Amazon, you can get one of these for $12 to $15. You're going to need one of these for the installation of the Trinity Force Atlas handguard. Along with the Atlas handguard, you're going to need the Allen keys that come with it to install it properly. And you're going to need a upper receiver block, such as this. Trinity Force also sells this assembly. This is part of that same assembly. It actually goes inside of the upper receiver, so you don't, by an unforeseen circumstance, crush your upper receiver. once you put it in this and clamp it down in the vise. On the last note, you're going to need a bench vise that's secured to a surface, whether it's a clamp-on vise or one that's bolted down to a bench. You know, it doesn't really matter, but you're definitely going to need to have a vise to hold your upper receiver in this block while you work on it. So let's move on to the upper receiver. Okay, you can see that we've got our upper receiver in the vise right here. We've got it stripped down, the muzzle device is removed, the old handguard is removed, gas block and the gas tube are removed. So if you're not familiar with how to do some of those procedures, definitely check out some of my other videos, or check out some other commentators' videos on how to do that. But we're going to keep this short and to the point and skip a few steps here. Next, once we've got this all stripped down, we're going to put some Aeroshell 33 MS grease on the threads. Now, I already had some Aeroshell on here from the last barrel nut, but I'm just going to, I've got it right here, just going to put some on here on the threads. I use my finger, you can use a Q-tip, doesn't matter. So that's all there is to installing that. The Trinity Force Atlas KeyMod handguard ships with the barrel nut inside of it, and this is it right here. Sorry if this is out of frame here, I'm quite a ways away from the camera. And we're going to install this with the hex nut side facing outwards. So we're just going to slide it down the barrel. And screw it down. Now this is where our torque wrench comes into play, and our crow's foot. Now I've already got this set for 40 foot-pounds of torque. That is kind of the industry standard for barrel nuts. And I believe the instructions provided by Trinity Force also say the same thing. So our torque wrench with the crow's foot. There we go. And that's all there is to putting 40 foot-pounds of torque on the barrel nut. So pretty simple to get that installed and torqued down. Next up is actually installation of the handguard. Okay, moving on to the handguard. Now, off camera, I reinstalled the low profile gas block and gas tube. This is a non-indexing barrel nut, so unlike conventional barrel nuts that have little valleys in them that you have to line up with the gas tube, this is a low profile barrel nut, so regardless of where the ridges on this nut end up, the gas tube is going to clear it and slide into your upper receiver. Now what I do installing the low profile gas block and gas tube is I make sure that the gas tube is absolutely parallel straight going right into the upper receiver. I also will take this out and reinstall the charging handle and the bolt carrier group and actually mount the entire upper receiver onto a lower receiver and check the functionality. You want to make sure that this tube is absolutely straight and that your bolt carrier group will slide, the gas key will slide onto the gas tube and not bind up or hit it or scrape against the side. So you want to make sure that this is all perfectly straight. Double, triple check everything before you put it all together. And I did that all off camera, put it back in this vise block and put it back into the vise. So don't forget that, that's an important step. Now moving on to our handguard. The Trinity Force has these two clamping bolts here which you can loosen up, and there's one bolt here on the bottom which actually mates up with the channel right there. So this is just an issue of sliding it on over the gas block and gas tube and mating this up with our upper receiver. And you can see that it's pretty easy to get this properly aligned right here. And at this point we're ready to tighten these bolts down, and of course, like mentioned, before we go ahead and do that, I'm going to put some blue Loctite on these. I will show you that with one, and I'll do the other one off camera. And we're just going to take that bolt out. And I have some blue Loctite. Trinity Force recommends Loctite brand 242. That's basically a blue Loctite. I have some generic blue Loctite, which is basically the same stuff. And we're just going to put a little bit of Loctite on that. We don't need a lot. And that's all there is to doing the Loctite. So I'm going to do the other one off camera and we'll be back shortly. Okay, here's the Trinity Force KeyMod handguard installed on a Aero Precision lower and Aero Precision upper receiver. We also have the Trinity Force stock and the Trinity Force grip, as well as the Trinity Force ambidextrous selector switch installed. So the installation went just fine. The barrel nut integration with the handguard is great. I've seen that type of design from other manufacturers, so it's more or less a tried and true, proven mechanism. I like these alignment tabs right here. These little tabs on the upper handguard slide over the upper receiver, so there's really no way you can get the rails canted. They're going to pretty much line up perfectly for you. And we'll also have the hand stop up on the bottom end of the Trinity Force handguard. That hand stop is also a Trinity Force product. So we'll take a look at the other side of the handguard and we'll wrap this up. Okay, here's the other side of the Trinity Force handguard. Now this, in case you missed it at the beginning of the video, this is a 15-inch handguard. It is on a 16-inch barrel with a A2 style flash hider, so that's the specs on this particular rifle. So that's going to wrap up this review and installation of the Trinity Force Atlas KeyMod handguard.